Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Raving Fans from Within. I'm super excited. We have Jason this afternoon. Jason and I, we go way back. Way back. How many years back? Almost 20 years back, right?
I think it would be 16, almost 16. So
Yeah, almost 16 years. So like back in 2008, is that when you joined Microsoft?
January of '09, and I think I met you January '09, 30 seconds after I walk in the door. I heard your voice. So
I love it.
I got to go chat with that guy.
So before we get too far ahead of ourselves, Jason, hey, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. About a month into Velosio, super excited, obviously. Really humbled by the welcoming and the support to help me get rolling quick. I was at Microsoft 15 years before that and always had an appetite for going into the channel. So just seeing what Velosio is doing from a full stack perspective partner really checked a lot of the boxes of the type of partner I'd like to go work for. So personally, I love to do DIY projects on the weekend. I always have some sort of project going around the house. Love technology, fascinated with all the ways AI is impacting people's lives, both professionally and personally, as we're seeing in the news. So it's an exciting time.
It is an exciting time. Okay. So do it yourself project. So you're a bit of a handyman.
Yep.
What is now, you say you're a bit of a handyman, but earlier you're telling me how you actually hired somebody to remodel your house. I think you're pivoting a little bit there. What's the most complex project?
Guilty as charged. And I'll say this, like, I have lots of friends that like to either that like DIY as well, but there's like categories of write the check or roll up the sleeves. I think as we were chatting earlier, we're both hitting, 52 now, a few days apart in birthdays, right? Yes. So hopefully I didn't out you on your age there, because you don't look a day over 29, Chad.
God bless you, Jason.
Let me get that off my nose here. So I think what I'm learning as I get older, man, I can't like schlep a pallet of tile anymore. And some projects, my value to the project is managing the whole process of it versus just, laying thin set and grouting or doing things like that. I think as I get older, I'm trying to be more strategic about it versus just, being neck deep in it. Now, as the Saturday and Sunday rolls around and I do have a project going, I will jump into it, and get my hands dirty. But yeah, fair call out. But okay. There's not much I haven't done. So
okay. Do you own a tool belt?
I never carried the tool belt, but I've got pretty much every tool known to man, from torches to every DeWalt that I think's available. Yeah. So, but tool belts for me, I'm a skinny dude trying to wear that thing around. It's more dangerous, I think, for me to have all my tools. I don't have the frame to carry all the tools in the belt, so it looks a little silly when I just have a pair of pliers and nothing else in it.
Okay. So you convinced me. You're the real deal. So man, so tell me, I'm just kind of curious here. So, man, you're a really passionate, energetic guy. To tell me, you've been doing this sales thing for a long time. Tell me how some of your personal passions, how you scratch those itches here at Velosio or before Velosio over at Microsoft.
Yeah, good question. I think for me, as far back as I can remember, I've always enjoyed technology, whether it was a handheld game like Pong, and that fast forward into all the other evolutions of that sort of stuff, along with Legos, Erector sets, et cetera, et cetera. So that passion's continued. It's why I went to go work for IBM. It's why I got into music and DJing and just all the technology behind that. Sort of was a bridge into like what a server is and some of that sort of stuff. And fast forward into when you look at like what AI is, and more importantly, sort of how that like kind of is rooted in language models and basically, quite frankly, history of humanity. I don't know why. That for me, just understanding how that can help and how it goes about doing it in a right ethical way is pretty fascinating to me. I've never been one to be more scared about the implications, as more as intrigued by it. And fortunately, early on working at Microsoft, I mean, it's 15 years, but like, let's say in the last 5, as AI has really come full speed, they've done a really good job at looking at things like unconscious biases and other things like that. And so I think with sort of, I have a little bit of a interest in anthropology. And so when you think about some of the ways you look at humanity and culture and how the good and bad can be rooted in some of those algorithms. Again, it's really fascinating. And Microsoft did a good job at really, like, if you're going to train and make a model, make sure you're going back to the source and doing it right. So again, I think a lot of that just, it gets me excited. And as you're excited, you're curious. And if you're curious, you'll come with a really good point of view to your customers and they'll lean in. And it just becomes a fun conversation versus just like, hey, you want some fries with the side of Skype, right? That to me is boring all day long. So
Jason, I actually love it. I absolutely love that. It's interesting when people do what you and I do for a living. It's really important that they understand what their why is, and you can just tell the passion and conviction you have just around that curiosity around people, and just this whole thing we call being human. And at the end of the day, doing what you and I do, we're a service to people. We're the business of helping those people solve problems, and we get to be able to scratch that itch every single day. I couldn't agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more. You mentioned during your introduction about your time at Microsoft and come to Velosio, and you mentioned, I think you said it, Velosio is kind of this full stack, with solution capabilities, and you're right. You're right. One of the really cool things about Microsoft is Microsoft has this big tech stack where an organization can go on this really, really rich digital journey and never leave the Microsoft ecosystem because of the portfolio of products that they have. And Velosio is like really, really unique in our ability to be able to actually have solution capabilities across the entire Microsoft tech stack. Do you mind just sharing with me a little bit why that in particular was important to you as you were looking at your next chapter in your career, coming to a partner that is able to navigate the complete Microsoft portfolio?
Yeah, I mean, I could go on that topic for hours. I think the short answer to it is, at Microsoft, I had a couple of career paths. Account executive, so generalist, partner manager, like driving scale through what I would argue is the best ecosystem on the planet of channel partners is the Microsoft Channel Partner Program. Like it's unmatched in my opinion. And then being specialist, right? And in those last 5 years, being a specialist for Dynamics in this case, to me, I think there's no better place aside, like maybe data, obviously as well, to talk about how to help customers. For me, at Microsoft, the theme was not, we don't want to be cool, right? We want to help our customers be cool. And how do they do that? Create memorable experiences for their customers. So when you have that conversation with the customer, it's not rooted in a technology. It's rooted in a culmination of all those things working right. So it becomes ubiquitous and ambient so they can enable their team to deliver a very hyper-personalized experience for their customer or their employee that's in front of that customer in real time. So for me, I often found talking about Dynamics the correct way to do that. One, obviously coming with a point of view and demonstrating that curiosity that we talked about earlier, but it also is, it's a story about security, right? You run on trust. If you don't get that right, that can wipe out a brand immediately. So you're talking about security and governance, Active Directory, Intra. You're talking about a secure device going out to that customer, right? And then you're talking about cloud. Can I have real-time connectivity to that device and that data? Then you're talking about data being in the right place. Then it's like the democratization of that data. Why does that person have to wait on some report from a DBA? Show me sales in the last 30 days that this customer did or whatever it is. They have that data point and they can bring that curiosity. Or I'm trying to grow share of household for this farmer that I've lent to and have $50 million in credit with, but I have zero relationships with the wife or the kids. They don't have car loans. They don't have credit cards with us. If I can get all that data, as I walk into that, I can create some curiosity and some opportunity to grow my share with that customer. So again, me being prepared for that conversation is the totality of the Microsoft stack. And I did it in a way where I didn't mention technology once. I love doing that. And oftentimes when I was invited to customer calls, because a lot of people appreciated bring sort of a technologist mindset to it, a point of view versus a specialist point of view. I would leave the conversation with no opportunity in dynamics. And that's great. I'm a stockholder. I'm happy for that. But it's fun to kind of tell the story and then know there's some opportunity coming out of that. And then also aligning with a partner that can fulfill that vision as a one-stop shop. The other challenge would be is, okay, here's a great dynamics partner for commercial banks, right? That's very different than a big box retail bank story and a partner that can fulfill that. Very different stories there and what those two firms care about. And again, they could do all this great stuff around dynamics and really focus on customer experience journeys and all that fun stuff, but they can't really nail the security, or they can't, some of them can, some of them can't. But then like getting that data thing sorted out that I mentioned, getting them going on Fabric, security to that device and. So again, customers really appreciate when you're coming in and telling that whole complete story and then leading with a partner that can fulfill that. There's not very many that can do that. It's a very tough thing to pull off, and it's a very valuable thing to do when you can demonstrate that you can.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would actually argue. So Velosio, if people that are listening to this, if they don't know a lot about Velosio, Velosio has a sharpened focus on that mid-market emerging enterprise space.
Yeah.
And what I would argue is really Velosio is in a category one in the market which we play, which is this mid-market in emerging enterprise space, to really help an organization go through this elongated digital journey and all the interdependencies and all the adjacencies to really be able to propel a business forward. I tell people all the time that one of my passions, especially professionally, is to be able to help an organization essentially punch above their weight class as they go and compete against larger, in some cases, I think they're larger, they're better resourced, they're better funded, they have better brand recognition. And I'm convinced, because I've seen it time and time again in my 30-year career, that Velosio can help organizations punch above their weight class and compete against any Global 2000, any Fortune 500. Heck, give me a Fortune 10, let us partner with them. And I'm absolutely convinced that we can make them more competitive tomorrow than what they are today.
I mean, that's it. I mean, we talk about the democratization of these technologies. That's both why big firms care about it, because they got to protect their share, as well as other ones they can go gain share, right? These folks that are laggards, that's part of our story. It's like, here's what your peers are doing and the impact of share they're gaining. That's coming from somewhere. Guess where? I just listened to your Q&A, which I also didn't have to listen to. I just asked Copilot to summarize for me, and it just shared that's what your CEO is trying to shore up, right? So you're spot on with that. I just was reading a slide deck for Velosio, and it literally saying right solutions to quickly transform their technology investments into competitive advantages. And I think that's just what you just said. I love that.
That's, you nailed it. Yeah, you absolutely positively nailed it. So Jason, you've been here for a month, a handful of weeks here. What's been your biggest observation about, the team that's surrounding you here at Velosio?
Yeah, I'd say, first of all, from the CEO down, curious, technology-minded people. I think in this day and age, you got to be curious about technology. Like back in the day, like you could hire a salesperson to come in and just go sell, as we'd call them, hired guns. Like if you're not passionate about this thing called AI and just technology in general and how it's shifting both commercial as well as enterprise in terms of just businesses and your personal lives, you're in the wrong business, man. You have to be curious and you have to be constantly improving and learning. So I feel like that spirit is alive and well in this org that I've noticed from the relationships that I've built so far. Again, as I mentioned I feel like that's very much top down from people like Robbie, and as well as yourself, Chad. Kudos to you on that. The other thing that stands out to me, Velosio in general, one thing I think that's neat here, and that maybe this is, by design or why it's occurring is, there's these NSIs versus these very small firms. I feel like Velosio is also unique in that it can fulfill the large and operate like a boutique firm. That's a rare thing, right? We can be a very nimble niche firm, but still 4,000 people strong, right? Or whatever it is. Like that's pretty special.
You got it. You absolutely got it. Right. So, when you look at Velosio, we take that boutique feel, as a firm, and then we layer in this blue collar work ethic, and we can really partner with people in incredibly meaningful ways. So Jason, we got a couple of minutes left here. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what's the best advice anybody's ever given you.
I think approaching things, small moves, like breaking things up, right? Look at a big thing and tear it apart, deconstruct it and reconstruct it, I think has really helped me through different phases in my career as well as life. The other thing is one of my favorite pieces of advice. It was from, a book called The Richest Man in Babylon. And one of my favorite quotes, so I don't know if it's advice or it's quote, I sort of treat it as like advice and life lesson, is luck favors the prepared. Oftentimes I've heard like Georgoulis, man, you always seem to be lucky. And I'm like, that ain't luck, man. I've like been cultivating the right thing. So when the moment occurs, I can strike or capitalize on things. I was very fortunate to, when I was young, get to be a DJ of a very big club in Dallas. And it's like, again, it wasn't like somebody just plucked me out of nowhere. I got my 10,000 hours of a skill, as well as building relationships all across the Metroplex in those circles, to when something was available that, hey, they thought Jason could be a fun fit for this thing. Fast forward, DJing over 4,000 times, got to meet people like Prince and other exciting things.
Really? That's amazing.
Same thing on, like do a little real estate on the side, flipping a house occasionally, like knowing your market. And again, same thing, knowing your customer base and keeping that contact relationship healthy. Like nobody wakes up and says, hey, let's have some ERP or CRM for breakfast, right? But if you continue to keep that relationship strong and healthy and stay on the radar. Hey, Jason, I heard you mentioned this 8 months ago. We're actually really starting to think about this at a board level. What do you know? So again, I think just being prepared is probably the best advice or thing that I would live by.
I think that's great advice. I think that's great advice. I think you're probably like me. I mean, there's, I like to share with people that I'm nothing more, nothing less a culmination of people that cared enough about me to invest in me over the years. And, do you remember Jack Brayman at Microsoft?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I remember when I stepped into a leadership position years ago when I was at Microsoft. I was meeting with Jack. Very first time. And he said, Chad, I can tell you think that you're a smart guy.
Wow.
I think he was tongue in cheek on that. And he said, look, I need to encourage you. As smart as you think you are, you're never going to be as smart as everybody in the room. Right. And, that really started to develop, my mindset around this whole distributed leadership model, where you really want to empower the people that are closest to the action to have the loudest voice on those things. And then, for me, kind of in that same vein, years later, Dave Snyder, who was the CRO, ended up being the president of ServiceNow. One of the things he shared with me one time is he said, Chad, make sure you listen like you're wrong, right? You hear people talk about, you need to actively listen, right? Or you need to seek to understand when you're having a conversation. But if you actively listen like you're wrong, if you listen to somebody during a conversation and you tell yourself, hey, look, you're not right on this subject. Listen to them like they're right and you're wrong. At the end of that conversation, you may come to the conclusion that you were actually right, but at least you've given yourself and the other person the opportunity to really be heard in a much more material way than how we typically, converse with people. So
I haven't heard that before, and that might be when you asked about what's the best advice you've received. That's pretty good because
it's a pretty good one.
there's two types of people. They say is like those that listen and those that wait to speak. And some you can't if you're one or the other, you can't control it. You can optimize and work on yourself. I think I'm one that waits to speak. So that's good advice for somebody like that, right? It's like just listen like you're wrong. I love that.
And I shared that. But both pieces of advice was given over 10 years apart. But I think it probably shares a lot about me, where people cared enough about me, where they observed, hey, look, this is probably a guy that's listening to respond versus listening to truly understand. And those were just two of many people that invested in me. And I think I'm a better person now because of that.
Yeah.
So,
I love that.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Jason, look, I appreciate you joining me this afternoon. I love you to death. We go back a long ways. We're so fortunate that you're at Velosio. And I'm just grateful to be able to partner with you in this next chapter of your career. So thank you for taking a chance on Velosio.
Yeah, what a treat. It was lovely to spend some time with you today and catch up.
Good job. Thanks, Jason. Have a fantastic afternoon, sir. Okay.
To you, man.